Well, welcome to the NHSA Club Portal webinar. My name is Roger Wright, and I just want to let everyone know that we're recording this for future use. For questions and answers, I would like you to use the question and answer button at the bottom, and then it'll make it easier once we get going. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to mention how we got here. And with the new portal and why we went to the new portal, and we spent about a year reviewing different programs that would make it easier, more friendly to the members, and make it more streamlined for them to be able to join. The old process, you had to go through multiple steps to get there. This one reduced that number by about a half. Also, we needed to update some of the security. Hence, you see the email verification if you joined already. And then other things that was needed that would keep up with requirements that were ever changing in the security world. The old system was very complicated. The new system is much more simple. The old system was more of a finance program that did memberships, and the new program is a membership program that we're forcing to do some financial information. The programmer worked hard to push all the data from the old program into the new program. Ultimately, it wasn't as completely successful as we would like, but it worked overall fairly well. It's better than entering every membership individually as it comes up. Just a couple of notes on future updates. We have a new search feature that will be coming out, which you'll be able to search for an individual member. Rather than right now, you have to scan through members. In addition to that, every club homepage will have a club information page on it. So you'll be able to add whatever club information on it, as well as adding your logo to that if you provided one to NHSA. As we move forward, we'll get into the nuts and bolts. The goal is to basically give everyone a good foundation of the new program and provide you with enough information so that you can navigate it easily. So we'll move on we'll get set up. Give me just a second and we'll get the program up. Okay, and I know some of you have already been in the system for quite a while and you're just looking for more information. Some of you haven't logged in yet at all. And so we'll go through some of the basic features to get you started. And so when you first log in, this is the screen that you'll see. And then to get to your club, you'll come up here and just click on Sugar Valley Snow Riders. This is the club I'm going to use for this purposes. This is kind of a test club. This is the club that I'm a president of. And this club website gets a lot of testing done on it. So you'll bear with me for some of the information. At the end of each section, I'm going to start with tips for adding members. And at the end of each section, if you want to ask questions, and then before the end of this session, and then we'll move on to the next session. So some simple items. If you want to add memberships, some of the basics are, if you start here, depending upon what you're doing, if you're entering a new membership, then you'll start here and click either individual or family, and then continue down through. If you're entering an old membership, then you'd enter the name, and then you search for the member. The key to this area right here is you want to verify that the email address is correct. If the email address is not correct, or it's a bogus email address from last year, then you don't want to use this, because once you click use this, that email address is permanent and you are not able to change that. And so if it is a correct email address, you can, as a club admin, you can change the address, the mail-in address, and or spouse address as you wish. So if that's the one that you want, you can click use this. In this case, it's an individual. So then that remains the same. $10 discount is the next line that has caused some confusion. So the $10 discount is basically equals, it's not a $10 discount if it's a primary member. It is a $10 discount if it's a secondary member. That button is automatic, and so if somebody is already a member, then it automatically moves to yes. Currently, it's not supposed to be modifiable. Currently, it is possible to modify. Please don't modify it though, because it causes more work for me, and it also will delay your payment if you need to. So free NHSA membership. The NHSA membership is pretty standard for most. It defaults to yes. Makes no difference for cost. If a member requests not to be an NHSA member, then you can click no. But of course, is that if you click no, it automatically removes the free snow traveler prescription, as that's a requirement for that. And then the rest of it is pretty basic. The other thing is the phone number, which is optional, the address. Let's say, for example, if you enter in the zip code will autofill the city. In some cases, especially if you live in the North Country, a same zip code is used for like 5 towns. And so it goes to the largest town. And so what happens is if you just click onto the city, then you can just modify it to whatever you'd like it to be. And then when you get done with that, and then you just click add membership. And then at the top here, you can view the voucher, or you can simply email the voucher. And then the voucher it says that it was sent to the member that you wanted it to, or you can click view the voucher, and that will automatically show the voucher. You can download it or print it and mail it off to the member. Okay, and that's pretty much the summary of that. It looks like we have one question.
You may have to go out of full screen mode to see that. Like if you go to just make it smaller. Yeah.
Bear with us so that we can get to the point that we says. Okay, so the question from an anonymous attendee is, can I tell you how you get the URL for the club's own membership address? Basically, there's a couple of different ways. Your club should already be on the list. And so if you go to the home NHSA page, and then you scroll down if you scroll down through the club list and click onto your club, and then that club address will be in the top. The other way that you can get it is just email me, and I will send you what that club email address, what that club URL is.
Or the office.
Or the office. Okay, we have a question from Mike T. Do I have member history from last year? When I search, he's not seeing it for people that are in there. So the club history is not inside of this portal. And so, but if you would like to have the member history from previous years, just email me and I'll email you a spreadsheet with that information. Ed, if the $10 discount is confusing, why not call it a multi-club discount? Right now, I've had some debates with my current programmer. And so the reason that the $10 discount language is there is because that's the reference that's used to when people join online. I agree that it's confusing, and I am going to change the verbiage on that in the near future. It hasn't been the highest priority yet, but it is coming. Okay, message from Bob. He's found that if a wrong email is entered and it is still sent somewheres, how do we know if the email is correct?
You have to depend on the receiving person.
Yeah, you would have to depend on the receiving person to make that determination, I guess. And so that's, if they send you an incorrect address, a couple of things is if it's an invalid address, then it won't be sent. And so when you won't, the icons saying that it was sent won't actually occur. The other thing is that I monitor our SendGrid account. And so if something doesn't go through, I can generally see that has happened and I generally correct that. But if it's a completely wrong email address, you just have to depend on the person that's receiving it to kick it back.
Watch if you scroll down.
So for a family membership, can second members' email be input in order for them to receive emails?
You only put one email.
You can only put one email on an account. So the answer is it's only one email per account. Hopefully that answers your question. Kevin Broderick is, we have some horseback riders that appreciate our maintaining the trails and would like to join the club, but they have no need for a voucher discount. How would we discount them from the NHSA fee? If the membership is entered into the program, it just automatically enters a transaction fee. So there is unless they're a secondary member, you would receive the fee. I don't know of any other way out of that. I can certainly look into it further, but I don't have an answer for that.
Is there a reason to even enter them into the system if they're just a supporter?
Yeah, that would be a question, is that is there really a reason to enter them in the system if they're just a supporter? So that would be another question. Okay, Sherry Finch would like me to explain the $10 discount again. She didn't understand it. So the $10 discount is basically, in essence, if it's the no is where it defaults to. So no for a $10 discount equals it's a primary member. And then yes for a $10 discount equals that it's a secondary member. So that's, for example, if somebody joins online as an example, then if they've joined the second or third club, then what will happen is that automatically reverts to yes. And so it's for secondary members. So you only get charged one time for each member, and then every membership that occurs after that, then it's a $10 discount.
For the user.
For the user, yes. Anonymous attendee, when will we be able to edit email address of a member? So the email address, what we've encountered in the past, so last year, I think we had more than 70 memberships where admin went in and entered and basically modified an email address. They looked up the member thinking that they had the correct member. And then when the member went in to sign and log back in, they were unable to do so because somebody had changed their email address. So it's connected to the ability for others. And so currently, we're not planning on offering that this year. If I see a high stakes, and so we're going to talk about how to avoid email changes. Anybody that joins online can change their email address themselves. So the only email addresses that would be changed is within the club admin areas. And then so for now, we're going to keep it as you have to make a request to the NHSA office. As we monitor this more closely, there may be a time that we actually release that back to the clubs, but for now, it's not planned for this year. Bob, it does state email was sent. That is correct. And Jane McCulloch wants to know, do we still use bogus emails for people without an email address? Any recommendations on what to use? With the new system, an email address is not required for admin. And we don't want you to use bogus emails because it just confuses the system and it's not valid. And so what happens is the system will try to send them an email if you do an email blast from that. And the reality is it just goes nowhere. So just leave it blank. There's no need to enter anything into that. Andrew, if an email is inserted correctly, do you have to make a new account? If an email address is entered incorrectly, then just email a request to the NHSA office, and then we'll modify it quickly and get it right back to you. most of the members, Sherry says most of our members are not showing up when renewing, as is common with other clubs. Um, I would say the feedback that I'm getting, and I'm beginning to get more feedback on that now, it seems to depend on the club. Some clubs have very few, and other clubs, it's actually pretty high where the data didn't get completely moved over correctly. And so it really depends on the club is what I'm getting for feedback. I'm still receiving more, but um, we'll share more information as it goes. So Terry Lambert is, I joined with a new email address this year. Her club is sending email to the old email address and not the new. Also, I received 2 snow travelers this time. Is there a way to fix that or better manage emails in this case? And so as to the last portion, I believe that there were some duplicates that made it into the program. So you ended up with 2 snow travelers. That is going to be fixed for the next mail-in. And then in regards to you joined with a new address, but your club is sending email to the old address. I guess I would contact that club and let them know that because they may be using, there are clubs that have mirror systems and they may be using an older database to send out information until the new year gets set up. And so that's an educated guess. Okay, if someone doesn't apply with an email, supply an email address, then just leave it blank. Okay, all right, so that looks like all the questions I have. If you have other questions, you feel free to email me and I'll share that at the end of the meeting. Okay, the next topic we're going to be discussing is searching and editing memberships. As I said earlier in the members in the meeting, that our goal is to get the search so that you can search individual members, which will be much easier. Right now, if you're Pittsburgh, searching through 800 memberships is not the easiest when we're viewing memberships. There's a couple of different ways you can view that. You can click on View Memberships. And then you have the options. You can email that member a voucher. The way that this is listed is it's listed as Stacey Chapin was the membership that I just added. And so it's the most recent at the top to the oldest, which would be at the bottom. And of course, is that clubs have the ability to, I can get my mouse to work. Clubs have the ability to modify the phone numbers, the address, the zip code in the town, and you can actually change children. The first name and last name, of course, is pretty standard where you're not able to change that because you'll be changing the account. The spouse first name and last name, we have changed that to make it mandatory that a club cannot modify that. What we experienced last year is that there was a fairly high volume of people going in after the fact. A spouse is supposed to be a person that lives within the same household. Several cases, and several people even called to ask if they could do it, is that they would have a brother that lived in another place, and so can they use his brother's name instead of the spouse name? Or can they, or in some cases, we found that the brother actually lived in Massachusetts that was modified after the original membership was put in. And so we're going to leave the spouse name is unchangeable. Again, if you need to modify that, there are some cases that happens, and you can contact the NHSA office. Anything, if you need any, again, and so contact the NHSA office for that, or emails. Any other questions?
2 more from Diane.
Okay, so Diane Fisher is, when exactly will the search feature be made available? The programmer has been working on it for about 2 weeks, and tomorrow wouldn't be soon enough for me. I'm hoping that it's going to be within the next week, but he continues to work on it right now. Kevin Broderick, can individual and family And snow traveler, yes, no, be changed there. You can't change individual or family after it's been entered. We can change the snow traveler yes or no after the fact. That has to be changed by NHSA as well. Okay, Mike T, to follow up on parcel data, will more data be loaded, or is everything in there that's going to be? As far as the old data, everything is in there that's going to be. So it took quite a bit. It was quite a task to get the information in there that's in there. And it is what it is at this point, unfortunately. So it's, of course, next year, once you go through and everything is complete for this year, then it'll all be updated, and then next year we'll proceed and it'll be much easier. So the data will all be there. Okay, I'm not. Okay, so Bill Gossman, hint for audience. If you need to know what email is registered for a member, you can export the memberships and search for it in the spreadsheet, and that is correct. So basically, if you export the memberships, and we'll talk about that here shortly in the review of club reports, and so, but if you export the memberships, then you can gain any of that data. Okay, next will be one more question, Diane Fisher. 1 year a member will use Richard, and the next year they will use their middle initial. How does that affect their membership? And will the two be different? Will they be two different memberships, even if the other information is correct? And so when you're entering a membership, if the email address is the same, then you can modify that after the fact. And so, but if the email address is not the same, you cannot modify it. And so if you click the email address, that's a given. If they change it to Richard or Bill or whatever the case may be, you can modify that up until the point that you scroll to the bottom and you click add member. Once you click add member, then that's it. Then it's locked in. If a member signs up as a family membership but doesn't list a spouse name, is that membership counted as two or one member? And so it's counted as one member. And that person, I've actually seen this happen more, and I've actually called a few people to ask why they did that, and said they looked at it as a donation if the number was higher. And so, but people actually do that, but it has no relationship to your membership numbers, and it only counts as one member. It counts as names and not family versus individual. Karen Roy wants to say hi to Dan. Getting a chuckle out of him. Okay, so Karen says that she couldn't edit information at the clubhouse computer. I guess probably give me a call if you want, Karen, and we can review that closer.
She can call the office too.
Yeah, or you can call the office. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions in that area, so we'll move on to club reports. So the next area is that you can see, and we'll go through all of the club reports are available on your home admin page. And so this little icon right here will tell you basically how many credit cards, how many people purchase memberships with credit cards, and how many people purchase with other being admin entered. And then what you'll see is you'll see your finance reports monthly, and we'll cover what those mean in a minute, so that you know invoices So invoices will be mailed to you from NHSA if the club owes NHSA. If NHSA owes the club, then you'll receive a check in the mail for those, and you can verify that with what you see here on the screen. To give you more detailed information on what each one means, and I'm going to use my cheat sheet here. We'll look at month 10. And so month, of course, is the 10th month or October. So the club collected $20 in NHSA fees. And so what that means is that that's the total fees, $10 transaction fees that the club entered. And so if the club entered, the club provided $0 in NHSA fees discounts. And so that's the number of secondary members that you entered. And so that's a discount of $10 for each one that is entered for that. And that's the total club admin area. Next, you'll see NHSA collected $175 in membership dues for clubs. And so that is only the dues portion. And so if the club charged $35 and then $25 of the 35 is in the 175. So it's only the club due portion. And it's just they collected $5 in donations, whatever the members made in donations, they're shown in that line. NHSA retained $70 in NHSA fees. And so basically there was 7 members at $10. And so it's the $10 NHSA fees for primary members. And NHSA discounted $0 in NHSA fees. And so you discounted, that is the secondary membership. And so if there was 5 secondary memberships, then that number would be $50. And then NHSA owes the club $160 for the month, or it would say the club owes NHSA $60 for that amount. So that's the summary of what those lines mean and how it's derived. You see these on the, if you receive an invoice from NHSA, this is what you see on the invoice, unless for some reason it needed to be modified because the admin made an error. Kevin Broderick says, why doesn't the club receive an invoice regardless? The right now is that was a decision that was made. And so certainly if the clubs want to see an invoice, even if they're just receiving a check, then I can certainly review that. All right, not seeing any other questions in that area. And we can always go back. So, yeah. Our invoices by mail, we are not mailing the invoices. We are only emailing the invoices. It's much, much faster. Okay, so for a fair amount of your information, you can export your memberships. You can, a lot of clubs will use this by, if they're processing memberships for yesterday, they'll pick a day. Or if they didn't do any processing of memberships, then basically they'll select a week, and then they only find the memberships that they want to see. If they want to see the whole year, then they click on the whole window that they want. You do have to be careful. This is very sensitive. So when you click on this, the numbers, you have to go through the whole number process. So just be cautious when you use that. You click on export the memberships, and that will open up. And you get this to a point that you can see it.
You have to share that. If you go to,
Bear with me for just a minute.
yeah, see, it says new share at the top of the green box. A little to the right.
New share, yeah.
Pick that spreadsheet to the left. Yep. It's share.
Yeah.
Lots of click.
All right, bear with me. Okay, so inside of the spreadsheet, and we'll modify this a little bit so it's a little bit clearer. This is the same as the spreadsheets that you got on the old program. It has the same information. If you want to look up, you can see the member ID. I have a different mouse, so you can create labels out of this by using the names of the information in Microsoft Word, or there's a few other programs that you can use as well. You have your phone numbers, your emails that you can pull into your membership. The membership type, family, F for family, I for individual, the purchase year, the purchase method is other for admin entered, and Stripe if it was an online or credit card. The amount paid, pretty common question is, how do I know if somebody made a donation? And what happens is, for any of the Stripe, so you can see that these guys basically paid $35. If there was if somebody was a secondary member, it would automatically move to $25. I can see where $40, so somebody gave us a $5 donation because it was 35, and then it was over that amount. Whatever amount that it is over is the money that your club is going to receive. One thing that you do want to be cautious of is that if you total all these numbers up thinking that they're all online, that's not the case. And so it also collects. And so if you have an admin entered, it says that it's 35. And so that may or may not be true. He may have given you $100 donation. So, but whatever number that your dues are, or your dues fees, that's the number that gets entered in there. My recommendation, if you're looking to see only what you received from the online, and then what I would do is I would sort the stripes and then pick out what that number is. Discounted, so secondary members versus primary members. And so we have one secondary member, so that's discounted, the $10 discount, that's where it shows up. False, if there was no discount. Primary member, true. Secondary member, there was a discount. NHSA, true or false, if in fact they was. And so I would share with you, you see these two false entries. And so if it's admin entered and you're an admin, then it automatically converts that to false. It's a current bug in the system, and I am working on getting that fixed. I'm actually manually changing a lot of those currently. And so, but that is what's happening. So we're working on that. The agent, so this will tell you who entered the membership. So if it was me that entered it, or whoever it was that entered it, it shows who entered it. So for those of you that are using agents to sell memberships, you'll be able to figure out who owes you what, and if there's any accountability issues, then you can go back and find out. Self, of course, is online. The timestamp gives you exactly when the membership was entered. And that's the information that's available. So this export you can use daily, or so a lot of people use it to send out whatever memberships they have going out today. Okay, and now we'll move on to questions. Can this show when a check was sent from NHSA to the club? It cannot. So it's a separate, the checks mailed it's a whole separate program, is done manually. So it's no relation to when the program actually says that. Jim Strickland, when we send a voucher for an admin entered membership, we used to be able to send a thank you for the donations. it wouldn't be right now. The email only thanks them for the membership, and so it automatically thanks them for joining your club. But there's not a specific place to specifically thank them for donations if in fact they made one. And so at this point, it would have to be a separate email that's done from the club. And I know a lot of clubs do like to send additional email or items, and so, but it was the program can't add that into that email, so it would have to be separate on behalf of the club. Okay, the report date search feature end date does not include the date entered or the date -1. And can we move that feature report date search to the top of the club reports? I can certainly look into that. Okay, and I'll get back to you. It's possible. All right, did anonymous attendee, did the season change for this year? I was told that the new season year is May 1st, whereas the previous one is July 1st. The season itself did not change, and so the vouchers are only valid until April 30th, and the system is not open until July 1st when they can begin to get new vouchers. And so there's you cannot receive a discount between that time frame. Yeah, and that is the case with OHRVs, but not with snowmobiles. Gene Cleveland, why not just show the $35 instead of the $3,500, and why not show yes or no instead of true or false? And so the $35 instead of the $3,500. And so right now there's no finance program inside of this. And so what happens is that number is being picked up from our merchant account and being delivered back. That question has come up to me before. We are looking into that, if there's a way that we can convert it when it comes over. Right now it comes straight from the merchant account, and I'm not sure if it can be modified or not, but I am going to look at that and see if we can make that happen.
So Roger, once downloaded, couldn't the user, the admin person, just select that column and?
Yeah. The admin can select that column and change it to currency, and then that would do the same thing. Yeah, and it's the same thing with the true or false. And so I can review that, and so that's certainly a possibility. And look at that. I'm not sure that I can do that this year, but I can certainly do that in future years without any concerns. Yeah. Okay. Kevin says that if you change it to currency, it changes it to $3,500 and not $35. Yeah, and that could very well be true, because that's the way that it comes over from Stripe, and so adding the number into it, that probably is accurate, actually. But I will look at that more. Right now, any research that we've done hasn't allowed for that to happen. So, but I'm not sure. It's a way that we convert it over, and we'll take a closer look at it. Okay. All right, that looks like the last question for that area. Okay, and we'll get back to the next screen. Okay, the next area is tips on adding users with different levels for portal access. This is done within the users, and certainly, and so a common issue that we've actually ran into is is when somebody has already been entered into the system manually. To add a user, you simply type in their email and then give them the permissions that they want, whichever level that you would like to give them. If you're going to basically give them permissions for everything, for all the reports and adding members, or give them permission to just look at reports, like for treasurers, or for a club agent who can see no reports and can only add memberships. And then you click on either one of these or all three of them, and then just click add the user. Once they go into the system, once they log in, and then they'll have whatever permissions that you give to them. What has happened though is that if somebody has used an email already in an admin entered membership, you have to use a different email. So you can't, after the fact, modify it to an online email. So I have, if for some reason you run into that and you don't have another email that you can use, you can contact the NHSA office and we'll give them a new Gmail address that will enable them as a login. And so when you log in, an admin does not have to be a member. They can just create an account and then move forward with all of their admin responsibilities. So you do not have to join account to do that. To edit a user or to delete a user, you click on edit and then you click on delete a user. You cannot modify an address, an email address after the fact. And so you just have to delete the user and then re-enter them to get that correct.
Spreadsheet.
So on the spreadsheet, looks like, can I scroll back over to the zip code? Yours cuts off the leading 0. And so very similar to last year, the leading 0 does cut off. You would have to go to the top and actually take that arrow. So because it leads with a 0, it automatically omits that 0. It's a pretty common scenario. So you can add the 0 back by going up and selecting special under that column, and then it will add that 0 back, or select zip code and it will add the 0 back. Okay, any other questions? That looks like no more questions in that area. Bear with me for just a minute. I'm trying to, yep. Our landowner, from Steve M, our landowner memberships discounted, or does the club pay the $10? And so, and again, if they require the discount, then you'd have to enter them into the system. If they're just, if it's just a landowner discount that doesn't require that they're not registering their sleds, and then I wouldn't enter them into the system. I would just provide them with a club membership, and then just do it in that way. Marie K wants to know if, can we get a similar spreadsheet for last year's members? Yes, you can. And then just simply email the office and then we'll get you a spreadsheet for last year's.
So Roger, the landowner question is pretty popular. So it comes down to, if the landowner needs a voucher and they're in the system, the
Yep.
club pays the $10.
Right, right. If they need a voucher, then they pay the $10. I'm encountering a little bit of technical difficulty here, but
That page, and I can just bring it over to you.
yeah. Actually, we can probably, what I'll do is I'll just share this one.
You know, I notice you have 3 people that sent you a chat. You may want to look at those.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah. Looking at the chats as that I haven't been caught up on. There's always the same question. Is there any way to sort members by name rather than the order that they were entered? Yes, there is. If you, depending upon which program you have, Excel, if you just click on data and then go to sort, and you can sort by the first name, last name, or however you would like to sort them.
but not in the website.
But not in the website. Yeah, you have to sort it in a spreadsheet form. So whether it be Excel or any similar information. So from Susan and to all panelists, who in Uncanumnet Club is receiving the invoice from NHSA? I don't have that information. Probably the NHSA office could probably get back to you on that to see who is receiving the invoice.
Send an email to the office and we'll get back to you.
Yep. Okay.
So go to the screen and click share for that one.
Okay, this next screen is that it's pretty often that clubs will get questions from people that are joining online. And so soon, this frequently asked questions will be on the website to basically to answer any questions that if they're having an issue logging in, then this will be there to answer any questions or some common scenarios that occur that can assist them. And so, and if you find yourself in a position that that this would be helpful, and oftentimes you get into a situation where they call the club instead of NHSA. And so, but some frequently asked questions for people that are unable to log in is that they created a new account, but the screen goes blank after they enter their password. And so the solution is try signing in again and be sure that you entered an 8-digit password. I am going to add that an 8-digit password is required to basically to prevent that from happening in the future. But in the meantime, that's a solution. If they had an account last year, but when they sign in, they get an error code account not found. They click create an account instead of sign in, and then enter the desired email out account address and 8-digit password, and then click sign in, and then that's the solution. They didn't receive a 6-digit code after they created an account or signed in for the first time. It's not uncommon to check their spam folder or their promotions folder if Gmail. Have they joined a club via US mail previously? The solution, if yes, then they need to use a different email address because the one they used is already been previously used by another admin. If no, then I see this pretty often that they misspell their email. They forget the I in mail, or there's a whole variety of issues. I monitor it closely. I try to email as many as possible that I can see their obvious spelling errors, but I can't get to them all. If there experience issues on signing in or the club you selected didn't move to the cart and none of the above solutions have worked, then try using another browser. Their browser may not be up to date, and contact the NHSA office if they need assistance beyond that. How do they remove their club from a cart? I'm working on a better solution, but right now the solution is they click on the home icon in the upper left-hand corner, scroll down until they find the club that they clicked on that they want to remove, and then just click on the check mark and it disappears. How do I change a typo in my name or email address? You contact the NHSA office. How do they request a refund because their card was overcharged? They contact the NHSA office. I actually monitor that on a daily basis, and if in fact people do have their card overcharged, in most cases they don't even realize it, and I've already credited their account. They lost their voucher. How do I get another voucher? Although in most cases, clubs are emailing them. And if they join online, they're automatically emailed. And so just a simple search to go back to find it is one solution. If they joined online, they can log into their account, and then they're going to see a list of clubs. You scroll down until they see the clubs they have joined on the green bars, and they click the view voucher, and then they can use the number, download it, or email it to themselves. If they joined via US mail through your club, the solution is to contact the club you joined or NHSA and have them email you a new one. This here, I am going to have this email to the club so that they have it, so that if they do get questions from members that are trying to join online, then they'll have this. And then in the meantime, and it will be available online, but sometimes they just make the quick jump to make a phone call. Okay, I'm just going back to,
You have to drag that window up a little higher.
there we go. Working through my technology issues. Yeah, so I've got a request from anonymous attendee to repeat the bit about the landowner discounts. And so for the landowner discounts, and so if you have a landowner that does not need a voucher to receive the discount to register their sled, then I would suggest not entering them into the system and then just enter them into your own local club system, and then just providing membership in that way. If you have a landowner that requires that and you're providing it, then you would have to pay the $10 to NHSA for the transaction fee to receive the voucher. Jim Strickland asked why the end date is 6:30 if it closed at 5:30. The end date for entries, so the reports will go to 6:30, but you will no longer be able to get a voucher after April 30th as the system closes down on that date. Diane Fisher, will the presentation be on the NHSA website so we can access it later? Yes, it will. Stephen Wilkie, should they be required to put their email in twice to verify? That subject has come up, and I'm monitoring that closely to see that, to address whether or not that we feel that that's actually necessary. Right now, the numbers are a little bit all over the place, but it may become more necessary as snow gets a little more presence in the Northeast, and then we may need to go that route. Anonymous attendee, is it possible to add the email address for a member so it can be seen when you edit membership? If you can't modify it, it would be helpful to be able to see it if it's correct or not. I will certainly look into that. I believe that it is possible so that you could see it. From Kevin Broderick, will the join clubs be listed at the top? I would certainly like to see that coming. I do have a question into the programmer to be able to make that happen. Right now, there's a pretty high priority list as far as getting more things done that are needed, and certainly, but that would definitely be one that would be on the high list to basically make that happen. It would make it a lot more user friendly to have the vouchers just show at the top rather than having to scroll down. From Bob, why is the Pittsburgh Club highlighted on top of list of clubs where it states renew in a blue box, even if the member never was a member of Pittsburgh? Seems unfair to other clubs. I am aware that there are some members that when they join that the data didn't come over clean, and in some cases that might be possible. I've also heard it didn't necessarily mean the Pittsburgh Club. Maybe the Pittsburgh Club is more prevalent because there's a lot more members. And if they were a member before, then that's what pops up on the top. So that shouldn't be a consistent thing that happens because it just depends on what clubs. It should be whatever club they joined in the past. And usually that is the case. And so I'm not sure. I haven't heard any other comments about that being case on a long list of members. From Jim Strickland, how would we get the snow traveler to the landowner? If you're going to receive a snow traveler, then you would have to enter them in and pay the $10. And then in that case, then they automatically receive the snow traveler if they're an NHSA member. Gene Cleveland, regarding the 8-digit password, does that mean exactly 8 or at least 8? And so my understanding is it's at least 8. But to be honest, I'm not positive, but I believe it's at least 8. Andrew, I just signed you, and Bob is right. Pittsburgh Club was bold and said renew, and I've never been a member of that club. Yeah, no, and it's certainly possible. I haven't seen it myself, but I do know that that the data. So what that would mean is that for somehow that data that came over, Pittsburgh Club was the previous club that showed. And that data came over attached to that club, and so that's certainly possible, and it has happened. And I'll certainly take a look to see how often that's happening. So, and I'll do more tests to get that information. Sarah Gray says she joined late, so ignore this. This has already been asked. Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, so Sarah Gray asks if it does not show if you have already sent a voucher to someone. And so it does not show. The only way that it shows if you've already sent a voucher is that when you physically watch to see if the voucher was sent or not, but there's no way to go back after the fact and see if you've already sent a voucher or not. Kevin Broderick, when does the club collected in X equals NHSA fees populate? That populates at the time of the transaction. Yeah, so immediately. It does not populate at the end of the month. And so if you look at what is calculated for October, that is accurate to the minute. We have one member that entered on 10/2 and it's not showing up. All right, I will look at that and see why that is. From Ed, can members use free type to locate a club without scrolling through the list? If they click directly on the NHSA website, they can't scroll to find a club. Unless they're scrolling down through the counties, and then the counties are listed alphabetically. In most cases, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to drive the clubs. And so if you go straight to your club's website and the club uses the link for the URL, it only takes them to your club website. But if you go to the NHSA website, it's located by county, and then alphabetically each club is listed. All right, any other questions?
We're finding, Roger, a lot of clubs are not aware that each club has their own personal URL to
Okay.
their portal website. And if you don't have that list, you can
Yep.
contact the office and we'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you don't have that URL on your website already, I recommend that you contact the NHSA office and get it, and then get your website updated, or even your Facebook page. And then so if you have any web presence at all, that URL is key to driving. And so once you have driven people to your website, they can only join your club as a primary. As they can join any other club as a secondary, but they can only join your club as a primary. Any other questions? Marie Hickson, yeah, thank you for hosting the seminar. Everything else you all do. I'm excited for all the positive changes, especially during this pandemic. Thank you, Marie. All right, if there's no other questions, certainly feel free to contact the NHSA office with anything else. Actually, hold on, we got one more from Kevin Broderick. Shouldn't these explanations be reworded? The way that they're worded now, it should be the club collected $0 in NHSA fees, the club collected and it's $0 in NHSA discounts. I'm assuming that this is something that is off your admin website, Kevin? Yeah, I'd have to review what you've written here. The information as it's provided, the system is not a financial program, so the information as provided is pulled straight out of the merchant account and then placed there. Originally, we were told that we couldn't do that, but it was the way, so it comes over straight from there. So it was pretty much the only way that we could move it forward to get in there. I mean, we could possibly look at rewording it somehow, but to move the fees around and the way that that's structured wouldn't be possible. But I'll take a closer look at what you've written there, and then I'll respond to you.
Some of the confusion, Roger, we've seen too, wherever it says the club, that means that that was entered by the club admin.
Yes.
Whereas where if it says the NHSA, that means the person joined themselves through the portal.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate everyone that attended tonight. Hopefully we achieved our goal. Certainly, if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact the NHSA office. Dan is looking for something to do in his spare time. All right. Have a good night. Thanks, snow, everyone. I hear that there's plenty of snow coming in the forecast. So take care. Good night.